Well, gang, it looks like we've got another mystery to solve. So let's put on our thinking caps, let's drink some coffee, but not too much, for we are elderly people, and oh yeah, make sure to bring the cake. The Thursday Murder Club is a Netflix original from director Chris Columbus, not to be confused with the explorer Christopher Columbus, because they're entirely different people unless the cloning device actually worked, and this man has been lying to us for about the last 500 some odd years. That being said, Chris Columbus discovered America. Actually, he didn't. He was lying to you this whole goddamn time. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. This Chris Columbus, however, did Home Alone 1 and 2. He also did Mrs. Doubtfire. He did 9 Months. He did Harry Potter 1 and 2. And he did Stepmom. He also did Pixels. He brought Pixels to us. I will never forgive Chris Columbus for bringing us Pixels. Not the little pixely graphic thing from CGI's. CGI graphics that go horribly wrong, and old DOS games, that's right, or old 16-bit games. No, I'm talking about the movie Pixels, which was terrible. So this was adapted from the novel by Richard Osman. This was done by Katie Brand and Suzanne Heathcote, and features Helen Mirren as Elizabeth, Pierce Brosnan as Ron, whose UK accent goes all over the goddamn British Isles, into the Scottish Highlands and the Welsh Lowlands. I know nothing about UK geography and the environment, so I probably got all that wrong. As well as Ben Kingsley as Ibrahim, who will never get out of the Gandhi phase at all. That being said, Ben Kingsley is a very good actor. Also has been some questionable stuff, but whatever, he's getting paid. And Celia Emery, who plays Joyce. You also have Naomi Aki, who was in Blink Twice and Mickey 17. She is very gifted, she is very funny, and I really wish she got better big projects to be part of. Because Blink Twice and Mickey 17 were just not that good, in my personal opinion. You also have Daniel Mays, you have Jonathan Pryce, and David Tennant, of all people, in this comedy where basically you have some elderly people trying to solve cold case murders, and in investigating one, it leads them down a dark path where, holy shit, they realize that murder has come right to their doorstep, and they must do everything they can to save Cooper's Chase, the place that they are residing at. A very lavish, mansion-like place where some residents are doing well, their loved ones are there, some of their not siblings necessarily, because they probably don't have any siblings, but none of their kids really visit for all that long. There's a bit of a tie with the character Joyce and her daughter Joanna. Some don't have anybody in that country. This is all they have. So it's about community and taking care of each other and making sure that, oh yeah, murders don't actually happen at your fucking doorstep, because as elderly people, it could turn really bad. Not as bad as the Rule of Jenny Penn, thankfully. This movie is not mean-spirited at all like that fucking fiasco. I will, however, say that the movie, for an alleged comedy, doesn't really have a whole lot of laughs, a few chuckles here and there, and while the star power can carry a movie, it can only carry the movie so far, and doesn't carry the movie far enough for my liking. It's also way too long at an hour and 50 minutes, when I really think an hour and 35 minutes would have done just fine, maybe even an hour and 30 minutes. Because they really try to layer this story when the story actually has about, that amount of layers. A couple rice paper layers. Basically, it all makes sense, and they tip their hand way too early as to what's going to happen. From there, the stars clearly are having some fun. There's some mildly interesting interactions and a few cool shots, but really it just ends up being a film where these people get paid a whole lot of money to adapt a book that may have some appeal, but I don't know how much appeal it's really going to have to mass audiences. I'm going to get into spoilers because there's a lot to talk about. So 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. So basically, a woman named Angela was stabbed and fell to her damn death. Women will do anything to get out of having a second date. I've had women do that. I will not comment further. The boyfriend was suspected as being involved, even though he was questioned by the police. And Joyce happened to peek in on this with her daughter just coming in as a new resident, and sees, they're the Thursday Murder Club, but she was a trauma nurse and she's very smart and recognizes this stuff, and blows and stuff like that, and blood loss and everything. So she gets brought into this because they had a fourth member, Jenny, not from the block, but unfortunately Jenny is on the block, the chopping block that is, because she's pretty much in hospice, and it has her husband, John, reading to her and stuff like that, which is very sweet and everything, but it's got to be really tough to see your loved one fade away like that. And there's There's a woman named Gemma that is going to divorce a man named Ian that is very, very rich and also very, very high strung and everything. It turns out he also owns the land that Cooper's Chase is on, along with a couple other people like Tony and a guy named Bobby. Wonder if you can guess who Bobby is. It's David Tennant. That's who it is, for no reason. And there's a Polish guy named Bogdan that was over here on a work visa that is doing odd jobs and everything. And once certain people basically are deemed, not on board with the whole plan, not on the ball, as it were, like Tony, whose Aunt Maud is at this particular place, and as long as she's alive, he doesn't really want to do anything. He doesn't want to displace her, even if he's got a lot of money. He's still a family man, even if he's a vicious criminal. But Bobby is really the one that's just so goddamn vicious. He'll cut people's fingers off. It's all this and everything. We see Bobby in one scene. And I guess it's supposed to be kind of cool. But nevertheless, Penny was a former cop. And now she's in hospice. And Joyce is part of this group. We had Jonathan Pryce playing Steven, who has dementia issues, but always records his chess matches and everything, so he can listen back and everything. And any conversations are recorded. Remember that. And we see that Ron's son, Jason, was a bit of a washout as far as a boxer because of an injury and stuff like that. And now he does TV work, but he can't box anymore. What's the injury? I don't fucking know. I don't really fucking care. And Elizabeth, is really the smart one. And yeah, if you're going to have Helen Mirren in a goddamn movie, you have to make her the lead. She just has that kind of commanding presence. All due respect to the other actors. But you give Helen Mirren the goddamn keys of the queendom right there. And they'll tell Ian no when they have this big meeting about this stuff. So he has asked Bogdan basically to help. And essentially they just have to break ground in this graveyard, this cemetery on the grounds. And if they do that, and they can find a way to break ground and do some stuff and start some construction, then somehow that triggers some kind of land deal thing. There was one kind of funny line, "Oh, you plonker," from Ron, who, again, Pierce's accent just goes all over the UK. It is insane. Like, pick a dialect and stick with it. Sounds like it's causing you physical pain to do that. And Tony ends up dying. Somebody kills him. It turns out actually that it was Bogdan that did it. And there's a reason for that because there's a reason why Tony actually was dead. But nevertheless, because they had to do something to get this whole thing out of the way. And burn, baby, burn, do 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 do. Get it on, get it on, get it on. Those are the songs playing. If you know the names of the bands, go ahead. If not, type them in and look them up. I don't have time to do everything. I can't wet nurse all you people. And they asked Donna for help because there's all this talk about how Penny was a woman cop that wanted to keep investigating. The boyfriend of Angela, the woman that, again, fell to her death to get out of the second date because and not actually for the second date, but I'm just working with the joke here. But she was a woman cop, and she was not seen necessarily as, like, they're not going to take her goddamn seriously. And Donna, unfortunately, is kind of the same. But Naomi Ackie, thankfully, being very gifted, makes his character work. They get her on board with this whole thing. They're doing some investigation. Joyce's daughter, Joanna, understands finance, and she looks over all these contracts and this kind of stuff. As Tony's dead now, Ian is a beneficiary of this, but also this guy named Bobby. And this is all to get him out, get Ian, more money, I guess, for this divorce and stuff like that, because he's desperate to sell this stuff off, probably because he's going to have a messy divorce. And then, there's like they show Hudson, he's the other cop, this, thing, like, give us information and we'll give you these files. Do you want the files or not? And they come up with the specific time of death. It's like 11:24. That's because he was wearing a smartwatch. It stopped when his heart stopped beating. Because it's one reason why those invasive things are actually good. And Jason used to be a boxer. He has a weird tattoo that, Donna noticed, and it turns out that she actually saw the tattoo in a reflection in a picture that Tony had with another criminal and everything. So, oh shit, all this stuff's really going on. And this guy Bobby has been missing for a while. Nobody knows where the hell he is. And it's all going to go back, by the way, to the beginning murder, by the way. But Bogdan basically gets to digging while there's this protest going on and everything. And then, Ian's freaking out and this kind of stuff because he's getting mobbed by people. So you think it's stressing. He suddenly passes out. Oh no, he doesn't pass out. He's dead. Turns out it's a fentanyl overdose. Well, just before that happens, you have Elizabeth pretending to be somebody else named Marina, because Marina is on the tattoo, or is the name on the tattoo that Bogdan has. That was the name of his mother, who's back in Poland. He's trying to help her because she's got some issues and stuff like that. But he doesn't have his passport. His passport, rather, was taken when he was brought over from Poland. Geez, God, good thing we don't do shit like that here to keep people going. Nevertheless, we shouldn't be doing that. We should treat people like humans, regardless of where they come from. And he ends up revealing some information about his passport, all that. But then Ian passes out, dies, fentanyl overdose. Bogdan then sees Stephen and finds out that Marina's name is actually Elizabeth. Shock of shocks. He's playing chess with Stephen, who's doing some good stuff. Or Stefan. I mean, whatever. I don't really care. And Lady Gaga's Love Drug plays, which, I mean, okay, whatever. I think it's over an ice skating thing. They arrest Jason because he had gambling debts and Ian paid them off, so maybe he does odd jobs for him. That doesn't really go anywhere, though, because Ron gets a call from him. He shows up and it is in the same suit that he got married in twice, and they kind of do the old people thing where it's like, hey, he's got a right to a lawyer. And Elizabeth, meanwhile, is driving with, Donna. She was MI6. They go to an old flower shop because a bit before, there was a flower delivery with a card that had the same design on this flower shop, and the card said back off. And it turns out this card deal, or this thing was from this flower shop run by a guy named Derek Ward, who actually is Bobby. And he was the one that did the card and everything, and now he's the sole beneficiary of Cooper Chase. He wants to sell off the land to the highest bidder. He doesn't really care. But he didn't have Tony or Ian killed as much as he wanted to. Doesn't really care. He just wants to get done with all this stuff. Oh, and it also turns out that he's involved in this passport business, but he was just trying to do it for work. But, Ian was doing it to be mean-spirited. Geez. And who talked about having this passport taken away? Oh, it was Bogdan, so there you go. Bogdan is possibly going to kill Stephen. Oh, no. Except he doesn't. He doesn't do that. And Bogdan hears everything from him, but then has his dementia kick in. But then they realize, he recorded all the conversations. He recorded the chats, to do that. So, oh man, Bogdan's fucked. He confesses all the stuff that he did, but what they noticed in the pictures of whatever, Bogdan was digging up, there were bones on top of some other bones in a grave. Why would you do that? Would you do that just as a way to make it a shallow grave? Or are you trying to hide some evidence? Turns out, yes to all that. Basically, there were these bones were, were basically the boyfriend's bones that, Angela's boyfriend, because we saw pictures of the investigation where Penny was looking basically like the death stare at this boyfriend. Because the boyfriend killed Angela, she killed him. John helped cover this up, but now that the bones were unearthed, John was worried that they were going to basically get caught. And then that's why he killed Ian, also because he didn't want to have everything uprooted while his wife is basically suffering and rotting away. And he killed him with syringes because he used to be a vet and stuff like that. Oh, and he says, can you give me a minute alone with my wife? And they did, and obviously they both, he, did that to her, did that to him. Couldn't have been the other way around. I don't think Penny would have been capable of doing that at that point. As hilarious as that would have been to just have that twist. So they both die at his hands, but then again, she was already pretty much dead anyway. And a eulogy for them. Joyce is in the club. She has Penny's necklace because Elizabeth took it off of Penny and gave it to her. Now she's the fourth member. And Joanna is going to purchase Cooper's case and keep it going for a while. She's young enough. It should be fine. And it's all wrapped up nice and neat and whatever. If I didn't sound like I was that interested in the movie, I really wasn't. Like, I really tried to make, just get some intricacies and stuff like that and whatever, but just nothing about this film really popped. Like, it just was okay. There were moments where I was like, all right, it's not today, and then we just gave up. Star Power carried it, but not far enough beyond the grade of a C+, my personal opinion. So, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritlin, and until we solve another cold case, happy trails to you.